Let's get straight to our top story in Georgia. Both President Trump and President-elect Biden leading rallies the night before the crucial U.S. Senate runoff elections. President Trump threw those races and the fight over the November election into further turmoil by asking Georgia's Republican Secretary of State to dig for votes in his favor.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Bloomberg's Emily Wilkins has been following that story, and she joins us now from right outside the Biden event in Atlanta with some more context. Emily, first of all, is there any fallout from that call?
There has been. Democrats really pounced on the call almost as soon as news broke about it. Yesterday down in Savannah at a rally, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris said that it was an abuse of power. John Ossoff, one of the Democratic Senate candidates, said it was an attack on democracy. And today we did hear from Republican candidate David Perdue. He said that the recording shocked him. So there are some impacts here. However, it remains to see how this is going to play out with voters. I've spoken with a number of Republicans here in Georgia, and a lot of them do agree with the president that there was voter fraud on November 3rd, even though we have no evidence of such fraud and the courts haven't found any either.
What the call showed me is that the president is clearly focusing on what's happened in the past, relitigating the November election results rather than looking ahead to really press the case for the Republican candidates here. How does the president's presence in Georgia help the Republican candidates if he's still concerned with challenging the results of his own election?
So let's think about this a little here in terms of both Republicans, but also in terms of Trump Republicans, because there are many voters here in Georgia who are very loyal to Trump. They are huge Trump fans, huge Trump supporters, and they are more connected to him than they are to either political party. And you know what? Those voters, David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, need to win them if they want to win the state. So it's actually quite important for Trump to be coming out here at this point and be really rallying his supporters, making sure that they're still going to get to the ballots. There has been some concern that Republicans won't show up at the ballot boxes tomorrow if they think that the election will be fraudulent. And so Trump has been called in once back in December and then again today to really make sure those voters know that it is very important for them to show up tomorrow.
Yeah, it all depends on whether he sticks to the script, which is, who knows at this point. Emily, you've been talking with voters on the campaign trail in Georgia. Does the Trump call change anything for them? How did they respond to the call?
Yes and no. I mean, Trump is obviously a very polarizing figure. He motivates not only Republicans to come out and vote, but Democrats to come out and vote against him. But let's remember, too, that Trump's not on the ballot this time. And this is a good chance to sort of look back at those November 3rd elections a little more closely. Yes, Biden and Democrats did win the state for the presidential. However, if you go down one and look at the Senate races, even though both of those races went into a runoff, Republicans got more votes in either Senate races than Democrats. That means that you had some split ticket voters. And the question is now about turnout and whether those split ticket voters who went ahead and backed a Republican and backed Biden will come out again for Republicans or might change their tune and come out instead to support Ossoff and Warnock.
And of course, we're keeping an eye on the Center Park Stadium, which is actually the home of Georgia State football, where President-elect Joe Biden is scheduled to appear. He has arrived at the site. There are about 500 cars here. This is a drive-in rally. You can see there are some Olympic rings and the Atlanta skyline in the background. If we pan out a little bit, we can't do that right now, but it's all there. It's part of the backdrop here. Emily, you mentioned turnout. Let's talk a little bit about that. Do we know whether it's going to follow the same pattern as we saw for the general election, with Democrats voting early and Republicans showing up to vote on the actual election day, which is tomorrow?
That's exactly what we are expecting. We're expecting, for the most part, for in-person voting, both early voting and particularly tomorrow, to be mostly Republicans, then absentee ballots to be mostly Democrats. What that means, as results come in tomorrow, it's going to seem like Republicans have a major lead on Democrats. That's what we're expecting. But then as absentee ballots begin to be counted, we're expecting Democrats to kind of close that gap. And of course, it remains to be seen how close they get and whether they wind up surpassing Republicans in the number of votes.
So when it comes to all of that, how long do you think we'll be waiting to get any kind of read on what the results are?
That is the question everyone here in Georgia is asking. Our estimates are a couple days at this point. People don't think it's going to take as long as the general election, which took about 10 days for the networks to call. A lot of it depends on exactly how close this winds up being. But we're expecting at least a couple days, and to also see that shift that we saw during the general election, and Republicans sort of getting ahead first, and then Democrats kind of catching up as absentee ballots are counted.
Emily Wilkins, thank you so much for joining us from Atlanta and giving us an update on the Georgia Senate runoff.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.